British intelligence. What does it mean? It's an area in the membrane of the sapience of the species. So it's all layers. So I've talked to you about the mind membrane, the goldfish bowl around your head, and you can dive into the science of it as deep as you want to go to convince yourself that it exists as a thing, as an entity. And I have it around my head. I think you can imagine yourself. Its size is irrelevant. So I just put it around my head, and that may be the best place for it. You just experiment. That's what I'm saying. And I take my time particle, when I place it on my ethmoid sinus, and I can visualize it there on my ethmoid sinus. It's bathed. It's equatorially split by the ethmoid sinus itself, the filigree network of blood vessels that lie there, and then the other one half of the particles in the nasal chamber, the meatus. And I use the technique of using the three conchas to get the bottom one, I can't remember what it's called, the inferior concha to flap, to lift the experience onto the superior concha here, using the sinuses here that are linked to all my experiences to adjust the mucus accordingly. I bring the mucus down onto the top of my time particle, bathing the top in the mucus from my sinuses. When I experience myself in that way, I can bring all my experience to bear on that single central point. I find that I'm actually wired to connect to that point. When I do that, I find intelligence lies there. But it can't lie there, can it? I'm just imagining that scenario in my head. I know all that stuff exists. All of it. I know the time particle particularly, I know what it looks like, because Levy describes the 2D yin-yang of forces. It's a balance of forces. Elastic plastic modulus that creates the three-dimensional actual physical sphere of the mind membrane is replicated in 2 dimensions on the plane, on the orthogonal plane, flat, horizontal, and then there's plumb. So there's level and there's plumb. But what you need in order to be level and plumb is to be based. If you're based, and the young people being born know this very well, if you're based, then you become well lit by God. When you understand what that means, as the young people do, you adults, if you just talk to them, is that that's what they're experiencing. So what we need to teach them, the young people, is this visualization technique I just described to you. And like I say, the science is all there if you want it, but I'm trying to do simple. So you ask me, oh, that's too complicated, what do you mean? Simplify it. It's easy to simplify. It's goldfish bowl, time particle, everything connected. So you're just using your breathing techniques to bathe the bottom half, of the sphere with your experience from outside. There's always the veil. So whenever you're breathing in, there is a membrane of atmosphere that comes with the breath, that the outside of the breath that you've taken in, the water, is turbulent on its bounds, on its dimensional bounds. And so that forms like a meniscus of the atmosphere as you breathe in. And you're bringing in experience from outside. Okay? You're using your techniques to bathe the bottom half in experience. And then when you're using the top half, you're bringing to bear, you're looking at that experience and what do you feel about it? And how you feel about it is it's the emotional response to the experience. And as an example, for me, the last time I went to see a gig was the best thing I've ever experienced in my life in terms of live music, and so didn't go and see anything else again. And it was Richard Dawson at Cardiff Gate, and he did The Hermit, 40-minute song. And it was just incredible. I didn't know it at all. I just knew him, knew Sally Pilkington, knew Rodri, knew the band were fantastic. So I was expecting a treat, and bloody hell, Did I get one? And that the moment of appreciation of the experience that we in that small theatre had enjoyed together, in total silence, seated, total silence, was there was a pause, there was a beat before the applause began. And that beat was the momentum of the music in the audience, our response to the music, the love that Richard and his fabulous team had given us. Was they had filled us with a real experience, and the emotional response for me made me cry enormously, as he always does. And that what that does is that's the premier emotional response to music that you can bring to bear to the mucus that's created. The lacrimal ducts, the tears of true emotion are different from when you get grit in your eye. That's just a cleansing fluid. When you actually meet an experience with an emotional response truly, with love, then the lacrimal ducts produce tears, and those tears mix with the mucus and sit on the top of the time particle that you visualized. And that's why the experience is so wonderful, because you've added the momentum. So now you can add the last piece of the jigsaw puzzle of your time particle on here. You're going to turn it, rotate it, orbit it, slowly, like the Earth. Same sort of speed. Funny. And when you do that, you'll see that if you took your awareness away from it, it would keep moving. But then you look back, and you don't know what it's doing. You know its position, but its momentum might be not so easy to see, or you might be able to see its momentum because you can't. Yeah, it's just the perspective that you choose to look at this time particle. You can look at it stationary, and that works as an experience in terms of visualizing the experience of life. It's all totally a legitimate way of looking at something. Or you can observe the time particle rotating exactly as per the planet, and that also works. You can see that. But the rotating one's better. Much better. Superior. Far superior. You can see the other one is like an inertial frame of reference. It's static. And you can't see the motion. When you can see the motion, you go, things make sense, because music adds momentum to that motion. And so the experience of the beat after the music that we experienced in that theatre that night was the momentum of love for the experience that we'd had. And the feedback loop was complete between the musicians and the audience. And it was a moment of, for me, perfection. Just sheer perfection. This was all encompassed. The whole experience of 40 minutes was encompassed in this beat. And then the applause began, and the release of this this release of tension that he carried on this incredible journey that he took us on. And you just trust him. If you trust a musician, that whatever he's doing is going to be brilliant, you find that it is. Because it's trusting. And Hen Ogledd, I haven't even heard the third album yet. I want to hear it live. I know you've got one. And that's life. That's life. You experience in the momentum of love. Trust that it's true. Look at the science as much as you want, or you can go, that's a nice technique. Yeah, it works. Because what does it do? What's the final thing? If you want some science to finish it off in terms of, well, okay, how do I really control the stories I get? The time particle can be viewed as the multiverse. And I know that people have seen the multiverse and have described it very, very clearly, both visually and mathematically, in the most incredible way. And that the solution to the collapse conjecture, when you see it, you're just going to go, well, that was just sitting there for a year, and we could have looked at it at any time. We could have looked at Paul Dean Charlton II's work and picked that up and gone and got down on our knees and said, bloody hell, look what we've got in our midst, America. He's an American. Okay? You could have done it at any time. And instead you just take the piss and abuse his time and fuck him around. Have I rambled on, haven't I? And I swore. Oh, bloody hell. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, kids. You'll have to edit it. So the multiverse can be described mathematically using the collapse conjecture solution. And so it's an n number generator, a random generator. But because you've now visualized the orbit, you can control it suddenly. By stabilizing it with this final piece, you bring your imagination to bear of what I've just described to exists. The little I, the power of imagination. Bring it to bear. And the only thing you're actually imagining is the time particle. That's the only thing you're actually imagining. Everything else is real. You can look at it, but that's a real thing. Anything that you can't actually see from this dimension where we live is the time particle, but you can describe it scientifically. That's the whole point of physics. Physicists, by the way, if you hadn't recognised that was the point of your existence, you don't seem to have done. So the rest of you kids, teach the adults, kick their asses. You're my children. The children. The truth of this, right? This is the truth. The king of the jungle, in terms of sapiens, in terms of the Homo sapiens, it means that the smartest man on the planet, all the children born since the smartest man on the planet has been operating, are his children. That the consciousness that they receive is my consciousness. And so as time passes, this is why this has got better and better. That all the light seeds and all the people that lifted me to my position, and there were so many of you out there. I've now sprungboard from there. I'm standing on that platform, but I'm the top. So all the kids born are my kids, my children. So they're important to me. You're not. So you listen to them. Midwich Cuckoos. Go and read it. Add the love of God behind it, and that's about the size of it. Okay. 8th of January, it's today. Let your heart sing, my British friends. Go and tell the world how smart we are. Welcome to New Earth.